Special thanks to these companies for being long-term partners of this channel.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zach. Here we talk about overlanding, builds, tech, gear, everything that kind of goes into overlanding and how you can maybe do some of it yourself. And today we're doing a DIY project where I installed this sound deadening kit sent to me by Noico. So if you don't know what Noico is, it's kind of one of the go-to brands for sound deadening kits on Amazon. And a lot of people really like their products, and so I reached out to them because I figured if I could do a video for you all installing this kit on the 4Runner, that might be really of interest, considering even the TRD Pros don't have good sound insulation, which is kind of a pity and a little bit embarrassing. So what I wanted to do was install this and see if there was any sort of significant improvement, because all of the sort of luxury vehicles, and I think even some of the newer model 4Runners, have better sound insulation, but definitely the 2014 to 2018 range, it sounds like nobody really has any decent sound insulation. So if you like content like this and you like the video so far, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel, because it really helps me out, helps the channel grow, and helps me to continue to make videos like this. So with that being said, let's kind of jump right in. I'm going to sort of in this order go through the whole process. So first of all, you have to start disassembling the vehicle, exposing all of the metal. Then once you expose the metal, you may need to clean some of the surfaces, that sort of thing. After we have everything clean, we can start putting down the deadener, and then we'll start putting down the actual sound insulation. And once we do both of those steps, as long as everything will clear the plastics and all the original stuff that we took out, then we can start putting the car back together. And once it's all put back together, I'm gonna do a couple sound tests and just kind of show you the before and after. So with that being said, let's jump right into disassembling the vehicle. Couldn't find good documentation on how to remove this rear panel, so I'm gonna explain it in case someone's watching this just to watch how to remove the rear panels. But right here, there's a little cover that's like a hook for your net. So you're going to remove a screw that's in there. All of the top of this plastic panel has a bunch of these little tabs, so you push something in the groove and pop them down. There's another bolt that's right here that's a 10mm. There's another bolt right here that's a 10mm. There's two screws down here under the plastic, and then you have to come up here to the front. Sorry, it's so shaky. You have to come up here to the front, remove the seatbelt bolt. I removed the metal part here that hooks into the seat. There's one bolt. And then also there's two bolts right here. A bolt there and a bolt there. And you've got to pop out the lever that opens the seat. And so how I popped it out is I put a plastic tool in the top and popped it forward. But there's teeth all along the sides, as you can see, that hook in to this plastic, so it's probably better to have the sides and pop this out, and then you can kind of work around. I think the best mode of action would be to pop out right next to these tabs on the inside of the panel. And then right up here at the top, this just slides straight out right by there. And then anywhere else that it's not moving, it's probably just held by plastic clips, and it should pop out once you remove those plastic clips. Okay, so I couldn't find anywhere to explain how to remove the center console, so I guess I'll do it. But there's a bolt that you have to remove here, and then you do that same thing on the other side, and then there's a screw you remove here and a tiny screw you remove up here. And when I did my radio install, I explained this, but there's the same thing on the other side. So, and then there's a plastic piece up in the wheel well that hooks in right here. The clips clip into this piece. So all you do is if you pull on this plastic piece, it'll unclip. Same on the other side. So now we've got this side completely loose. Empty out your center console completely, and we're gonna remove those two bolts down there. I think they're a 14. And then that should completely remove this plastic center console piece because it's pinning down the carpet. So we've got everything pulled out that we need to do the sides and the doors and the floor. And honestly, wasn't too bad. So we have basically got it completely ready to put the sound insulation and deadening in. But I just want to walk you through everything that I've done so far. So it's about 12:15, 12:30,
and I've been working for about 3.5 hours this morning, and I want to say that I took an hour before this morning to get ready. So just to give you a time estimate of how long it's going to take you, it's probably around a 4-hour job, maybe 5. Now what I've done is I've removed these 2 rear panels, this one and this one. I removed the middle trim piece, the carpet. There's a piece of foam under here, and then there's also a piece of rear trim. So that's what you do to get access to all of this in the back. And then in the middle, you have to take out the 2 seats, and then there's just carpet. And that's all that's in the middle. It's pretty easy to actually get at in the middle area there. The back left panel here, I had to take out 3 screws and then just lift it out. TRD John has some videos on how to take off the interior panels, so check those out if you don't know how to do it, but it's really easy. Just take 3 bolts out, pull on the bottom where there's clips, and you lift up out of the window trim. So that's the same thing for the front door here, except for you're going to also remove this small piece of plastic trim because it gets in the way when you're lifting it up. On the sides here, you have to remove the step trim piece, and then same with right up there, you remove that step trim piece, that plastic piece which just pulls forward. There is a little metal clip that's a little tricky, and it kind of pinches onto the plastic and the rubber, so you might pull on the door trim a bit. It's not the end of the world. Just use a screwdriver to pry that open a little bit to get it unclipped. On each side under the carpet, there are plastic air ducts that run right through here, and so what you'll have to do is you'll have to unclip this yellow cable from it, disconnect the air duct part that's right here, and then there's a portion right here that hooks up to this white part that is an air duct. So also, if you live in a winter state or area, this whole area was actually caked in salt. So the salt that runs off of your boots that's in the water, you know, when you're walking in the snow or whatnot, was starting to accumulate back here. So I used a scrub brush to clean all of that the best I could, try and just prevent it from ruining anything back here to the best of my ability. I kind of talked about removing this center console already, but there's 2 screws up in the front. There's one there and then one even farther, and then there's a bolt right here that hooks into this metal frame piece. And then in the back there are 2 big 14mm bolts that are in the bottom of the center console. You just take all those out. There's a bolt and 2 more screws on that side, and then the whole center console will lift out. Same with on this side. There is a duct that mirrors the driver's side, so there's a portion here and then a portion right up here, and so you just have to remove this portion as well. It will stick into this plastic piece that's this air duct, and then this wire will clip onto it. There are a couple of spots in the wheel wells where the carpet will hook in, like here, and then all of these plastic clips along here have areas where the carpet clips in, so you just have to make sure that you unclip the carpet from there so that it will actually pull up. This door trim piece you have to remove. Same with this one right up here. This one's not really hooked into anything, it just pulls straight out. And then same with this side, removed all the door panels. I'm going to have to take off these speakers, which are just 4 10mm bolts, I believe. But that'll be really easy. So I removed the vapor wall or chamber or whatever it's called, just so I could get inside of here, because we're gonna need to put in pieces of deadener and insulation inside of this against the metal panel that is the exterior of your door. So you have to pull that up, and this can get a little dusty if you off-road, so I put a rag in there and wiped it down the best I could. Same thing back here, removed the panel, and both of these doors are the exact same as on the driver side, and remove the vapor wall, and this screw we'll have to take off as well. All through here, I just made sure to clean everything up, and most of this area in the middle row is pretty clean. But sometimes these little like caverns, they can get a little bit nasty, so definitely wipe those out if you need to. This stuff will not really go on very well with grease or other kinds of oils, so make sure you remove any oils and wipe it all down the best you can so that it's a clean surface for the adhesive to seal up to. So, and then in the rear, the only tricky thing I think is getting this part unplugged. So you can technically unclip the interface for this rear inverter, but I found that unclipping the wires was just easier. However, I broke the top tray that sits over the wheel well, so maybe do as I say and not as I do, but I ended up getting that all pulled out fine. What I think is actually really interesting is how much space is in these wheel wells. So obviously this side is like the storage space, so it makes sense why it's so hollow, but even the plastic like doesn't really maximize on the space in there. And they go down a ways too on both sides. So, and then on this side, there's also a big portion of space up on top of here that's completely hollow. And it would be really cool to be able to utilize that space in some way. But you'd have to cut your plastic panel open and then, you know, relocate some of these things, which I'm sure would be easy. I have no idea what this is even for. But anyways, these kind of have some caverns, and we'll have to fill all of that in with sound deadener as well. But this is all looking really good, and I vacuumed everything I could get access to and wiped down all of the surfaces that I could. So now that I think we're basically ready, the only last thing of advice I guess I would say is if you have any of this like pathetic sound deadener in your vehicle that's cracking and chipping, try and remove all of that. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to remove these, but there was a couple of pieces kind of breaking off that I removed over here. But that's just one thing that I know some people with older vehicles have done. If you're going to do this sound deadener and you have this stuff and it's just basically completely destroyed, you're just better off chipping it away and cleaning it up. So as you can tell, this like sound deadener that's in the vehicle, it's hard as a rock, so there's no way it really helps with any sort of vibrations. But this, you know, footwell area for the middle row and the front seats has some of that laid down, and so I'm not going to remove any of it though, because all of it still seems to be in one piece. So I'm just going to put the sound deadener over the top of it. But I'm really stoked to be adding this because, as you can see, there's not very ample insulation inside the doors. We've got this tiny piece of styrofoam, and there's like inside the door, there's this little diagonal piece. If you can see that, there's like this little piece of, I don't know, some sort of deadener. And this is just kind of pathetic, so I'm excited to get this all nice and higher quality. Okay, so you probably heard me throwing around some of these terms of sound deadener and sound insulation, so I'm just going to clarify what that means. But thank you to Noico for sending me this stuff, because I think it's going to be really awesome, and I wanted to show you all an install. So these are basically panels of sound deadener, and they are super thin. I think they're 80 or 90 mil thick, and you can get them in different colors. I think like black and silver and maybe another color. Anyways, you buy it, and it comes with like an adhesive backing. So, and then you use one of these metal rollers with a ton of little teeny grooves to make sure this presses down nicely over all of the surfaces. And it's got this diamond pattern because when you roll over it, it's going to change its texture. So this is nice for actually like making sure you're rolling it correctly. And then this stuff right here, this is a heat and sound insulation. Should hopefully help to keep the vehicle cooler or warmer depending upon what temperature or season you're trying to climate your vehicle. And then also this will help with additional sound deadening and keeping your car quieter inside, and hopefully with improving the sound quality of your speakers, because they'll be able to reverberate through the vehicle better. So these are the two materials we're using. And then what you're probably going to want to do is use some gloves, because you're handling the adhesive, and then that way your fingers' oils don't get on the back. And then we've also got just a, you know, typical box cutter and a pack of blades, because I don't want to be cutting this with something dull. So let's jump right into it. What I'll probably do is I'll do the front, and I'll work my way all the way back on the floor, and then we'll do the doors, make sure we can get those done correctly. And then I'll come back and see if I can do some of these wheel wells and things in the rear. But I want to make sure I have enough material. I have 3 boxes of this, which is 36 square feet. And I have 3 boxes of this, which is also 36 square feet. So we're going to have over 100 square feet of each total. And I think we should have a lot of material here to really do a good job of sound insulating and deadening the vehicle. So let's get into it. Alright, so I've been working on putting all of the deadener and then the insulation on the inside of these door panels, and I'm basically just putting it on this side. I'm not gonna put it on the back side of this panel. I suppose if you really wanted to be thorough, you would put it like right inside here. But I'm just putting it on that side because I know nothing really screws into there. I took out this piece of foam and I just put it back. Well, there's nothing really to show, but it's just the Deadener and then this foam on top of it, and it's in there pretty well. This is a piece of Deadener, this is a piece of foam, and then around the speaker spot I also put some Deadener just to maybe help with any sort of vibrations with the speaker. So I'm gonna put the speaker back and then I'll just show you. I've got most of the passenger side done. I just filled every spot I could with Deadener, and then there's a layer of insulation on top of it, and I think it's turning out really well so far. So I've got a lot of the passenger back seat done as well, but that's how far I've gotten, and we're just gonna keep on moving. So just a little check-in just to show you how far I've come so far, and then I'll check in again once I get a little bit more done. All right, so it's about 5 hours later and I've got the whole main cabin done. I have all of the sound deadening in, and then on the sides here, the best I could do, I've got a bunch of sound deadener and the padding. And same over here, that whole cavity I've filled with sound deadener and then the padding. So I did my best to try and put it in places where I thought that all the plastic would still go back on the vehicle. So that's why in some spots it looks like I didn't do anything. Like right here, the piece of plastic sits almost flat up against this, so I'm not quite sure how much I can really use. I'm also trying to balance using my materials the best I can, because right now I've used 2 full boxes of the black Deadener, and then I've used about a box and a half of the padded stuff. So I'll probably add some more padded stuff up front just for some extra insulation under the carpet, but I'm gonna wait until I've done the doors and the trunk before I do that. So on to the next thing. I've done the passenger side door in the front, so now I'm gonna start doing the other doors, and we'll see how fast the product goes. Okay, so I actually forgot until I was starting to put the vehicle back together that I should do the tailgate as well. So what you have to do is see on the side here how there's this little cutout. So these pry open, they're the rear lights. You just push a flathead screwdriver or plastic tool into there and just pop out. And so we pop both of those out. And then this door is, I think, for nothing. I don't know what it's for. And this is just your bolt for the handle to pull your tailgate down. So once you remove those 3 things, there's plastic clips all along the edge, and then the top of the plastic will sit in the actual trim of the window. So after you remove those 2 lights and then the screw, there's just a bunch of clips around the exterior of the plastic, and then there's like a channel on top that hooks in where the glass does. So that's how you remove this plastic panel. And then if we set that aside, basically what we want to do is we want to get this piece of vapor barrier exposed. And so what we removed is this metal module right here. So you've got a couple of, obviously you can see mine's kind of rusty. There's 2 screws on this end and 1 screw on this end, and then a bunch of clips to remove. All right, so I didn't really show you all the whole disassembling process, but I got everything put back together after putting in the sound deadener and sound insulation, and everything basically fit. The only thing I found was you should leave enough room around the feet of the seats, because there are these plastic caps that clip over where the bolts go, and some of those plastic caps I was having some trouble fitting. But other than that, just make sure you plug everything back in the way it was. Especially under the 2 front seats, if you've got like seat heaters or things like that, make sure every plug is plugged back in, because otherwise you're gonna have to take your seats back out to troubleshoot it and whatnot. I accidentally forgot to plug in the seat heater on the driver's side, so once I took it all apart, I just noticed there was 2 plugs that weren't plugged in. So silly mistake, but just make sure that you do that, and those are kind of my last minute tips. But let's jump in the vehicle and do a little bit of driving, and I'm gonna show you some before and after sound clips. The camera. So first got to just get up to speed here, and then If there's occasional rattling, it's just because of the seat belts. They're not fastened right now. And just quickly before we talk about the sound, and kind of the before and after, just want to show you something interesting. I don't have a before, but when you slam the door, it actually sounds like a much more deeper tone. There's not really this interior door echo that was there before. I really like how it sounds. It sounds and makes the vehicle doors sound much more high end. So just here, give this a listen. So those are some of the clips that I just wanted to show, sort of the before and after. But I want to talk through what they sort of mean and how I think maybe it could be even improved farther. So just right off the bat, obviously this project isn't small. You're going to have to take a lot of things apart, and you're trying to probably figure out, well, is this really worth it? And sort of, what do you think happened? Do you think there was an improvement? What do you think, Zach? So my initial impressions are, if you listen to the back seat or the middle row audio, there's a ginormous improvement. So I think areas where you're not very close to the engine bay, there was dramatic road noise improvement. And I actually didn't even do any sound deadening on the roof, which some people do, and that's an additional step you could take. But as you sort of get closer and farther to the front, you start to hear a little bit more noise. And I think a lot of that noise is entering through the firewall, because I didn't attempt to get next to the firewall and put any sort of sound deadener in. I think it's really tedious and it takes a lot more time to disassemble the front dash. But that's definitely something you could do if you wanted to get this really, really quiet. I also noticed that if you kind of flip between the before and after audio, the before audio has a lot more low tones, and then the after audio has a lot more higher tones, or those higher frequencies. And what I think is kind of going on here is, I think a lot of the road noise and wind noise is coming from more lower tones. And I think that basically the tire noise is higher tones and higher frequencies. And so I think right now it sounds a lot louder because I have mud terrain tires, and that makes my tires sound louder. But I do wonder if there would be an even more dramatic improvement if you had like road tires or all-terrain tires where there is less tire noise, due to them just having a less aggressive tread. And so I think that definitely after installing the sound deadener, there was a lot more lower frequency reduction, and that's why you kind of hear that higher frequency prominent sound in the after audio. So to kind of bring this full circle, I would say that I would totally do this again. I think it just makes the vehicle sound quieter, and noise sort of compounds. So if you have all kinds of different noise sources and they mix together and make something louder. So if you can reduce some of those things, it's gonna make the driving experience overall quieter. And so for one, I think this makes having mud terrains even easier, because some of the other noise is reduced, and so the mud terrains don't feel as loud. I also think that just maybe doing some more sound reduction even on top of what I did will definitely help. And I covered most surfaces that I could, and there's still more that could be done. And so I think that if you're wanting to do something like this, you could do exactly what I did, and I think it's really gonna be worth it. But if you wanted even better improvements, you should work on sound deadening the firewall, because I think there will be a lot more sound improvement there, and you'll be able to reduce some of that tire noise and some of that road noise.
I hope that was helpful for you. When I was trying to decide whether to do this or not, I didn't see a lot of content on YouTube about it, especially for a full vehicle. So if this brought you any sort of value or helped you make a decision, please consider giving the video a like. And like I said before, subscribe to the channel if you like more content like this, because I post a lot of content. I try to post weekly. And you know, if you like this kind of content, you're not going to want to miss it. So, and especially turn on that notification bell, because that will help notify you when new content is uploaded. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the support from all of you, and I will see you in the next video.